What if I told you that the reason you're crashing at 2 p.m. every day, struggling to focus in your afternoon meetings, and always laying bed at night, mind always running, thinking about the business, it's not because of how hard you're working, it's because of how you're fueling. Most CEOs I work with are under eating carbs, not because they're lazy or uninformed, but somewhere along the way, they were told that carbs are the enemy. But today I'm going to be flipping that narrative. I'm going to be showing you exactly how to structure your carbohydrates as a CEO, so you can think sharper, perform longer, recover faster, and look and feel incredible. Before we dive in, let's give some quick context on who this video is for. If you're running a business, leading a team, making high-stake decisions every single day, and trying to maintain your health on top of all of that, this video was made specifically for you. My name is Ben Kump. I'm an online health and performance coach for CEOs and entrepreneurs. I've worked with founders, operators, executives who know that they are physically capable of more. They just haven't had a nutritional structure built around the demands of their life. So here's exactly what we'll be covering today. Why carbs are critical for executive performance, 3 biggest carb mistakes CEOs make, how to time your carbs around your actual schedule, the CEO Carb Blueprint, a practical daily framework to follow, and how to know if you're eating the right amount of carbs every single day. So make sure to stay till the end so you can know exactly how many carbs to consume every single day, no more guesswork. All right, so moving into section 1, why carbs even matter. Why are carbs important for CEOs and founders, high performers? I'm going to start off with some simple science, right? Your brain makes up 2% of your body weight, right? But it takes up 20% of your total energy every single day. Its preferred energy source, glucose, which comes from carbohydrates. Now, here's what that means for you specifically. Your prefrontal cortex, that first or front part of your brain. If this is the back of your brain, the back of your head, your prefrontal cortex up here in the front of your brain. The part of your brain responsible for impulsive control, strategic thinking, decision making, and emotional regulation. It's the most expensive metabolic real estate in your body, and it's the first to respond when glucose is low. You know that feeling around 2 p.m., maybe 4 p.m. for you, it depends on the person. Your energy just crashes, right? You hit a wall throughout the day, or you're in a meeting and you just snap at someone, not because you're necessarily actually mad at them, but you're just feeling off. You're feeling hungry maybe. Situations like this aren't because you are so stressed out or because you're doing too much work. Almost every time that's low blood sugar hitting your decision-making control system. And so here's exactly what happens when a CEO is under eating carbs. Testosterone drops. Chronic under eating of carbohydrates suppresses testosterone production. Cortisol rises because when you're under eating, you're under fueling, your body needs glucose and energy from something. And when you're not getting it from carbs, your body goes to muscle mass and it starts breaking that down, increasing your cortisol levels. Another is sleep quality. Carbohydrates help produce melatonin and serotonin. They help release in your brain the 2 hormones that help you feel tired at night, help you fall asleep. And then a very self-explanatory one, cognitive performance drops. Like we just talked about before, your brain's main energy source is carbohydrate. So it's not going to be able to perform at its highest capacity without that fuel. So all of this is very important to understand, right? Everything in section 1 that we've covered so far, why carbohydrates actually matter, make sure you understand all of this. Now moving on to section 2, the biggest carb mistakes that CEOs are making. We've got the 3 main mistakes stated here, and starting with number 1, poor timing of carbs. This one's very important. Most people eat their carbohydrates around breakfast time, right? In the morning, and that's very common with toast, with oatmeal, with yogurt, with fruit, right? But then you wonder why your energy is crashing around 2 p.m. The problem isn't that you ate carbs. The problem was the timing of your carbs. Consuming a large amount in the morning when your body really didn't need them. So let's explain this a little bit further. Carbohydrates are most effective later on in the day, or most importantly and effectively after a workout, when your muscles are depleted and they're ready to absorb glucose. And so again, in the morning, this is not when your muscles are ready to absorb all that glucose, right? You just woke up. This is when insulin is highest, and then consuming all of those carbs at once without any fat to slow the digestion down, it's going to create a blood sugar roller coaster, right? Spiking it up, and then of course around 2 p.m. plummeting down, killing your afternoon productivity. So that's that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is wrong carbs, right? Of course, on paper, carbohydrates can look the same, especially in terms of calorie amount as well. But there's a huge difference between a bowl of rice and, a sleeve of crackers, Ritz crackers, for example. Again, on paper, the calorie amount may look the same, but in terms of the quality of those two different carbohydrate sources is pretty big. Whole food carbs like rice, potatoes, fruits, sourdough bread is another great example. These are the carbs that are going to provide consistent energy and digest more predictably, rather than on the other side, the ultra processed food and carbohydrates. These are going to spike your blood sugar, drive inflammation, and destroy your cognitive performance. So the simple rule I use with all my clients is if the carb source grew off a tree or grew from the ground, it's a good source. And finally, mistake number three, the crash and burn cycle. CEOs and founders especially think that in order to achieve that lean, high-performing body that they want, they need to cut carbs almost completely, right? Some even go on the keto diet, which if you've heard of the keto diet or have ever tried it before, highly do not suggest it, right? But some go for the keto diet, some drastically cut their carbs, which obviously cuts their calorie amount every single day as well. And eventually, scale is going to stop, right? So then you think, okay, I need to cut my carbs and cut my calories even more so that I can be in a calorie deficit and keep that weight, that number on the scale going down. But there's going to be a day where you are just so fed up with not eating enough, with underfueling, right? And so you're going to think, okay, one cookie is not going to hurt. And then one cookie turns into two. Then you start going on a rampage, right? Ice cream, pastries, McDonald's, ultra processed foods, right? Because you have been starving yourself for so long, your mind is not thinking, right? You're tasting that amazing food, go all in, and you crash and you burn. Extended low carb dieting without strategic refeeding, this is what causes that crash and burn cycle, right? So you don't need to go low carb, you need to go smart carb, strategic carb every single day. So that's everything on section 2, the biggest carb mistakes. Of course, there are more, but these are the 3 main mistakes that I see entrepreneurs when they come to me, what they've been trying to do, it's obviously hasn't worked for them. So we make the adjustments, we actually structurize that carbohydrate timing, and things start to change. Things start to improve. They start to feel better, look better, do better. Moving on to section 3, the CEO carb blueprint. I'm going to keep it as simple and as practical as possible, talking about 5 different windows throughout the day of when you should be timing your carbohydrates for proper consumption and optimal outcomes from that fuel. Window number 1, which is obviously in the morning, the start of your day, like we've talked about and touched on just a little bit, in the morning is not one of the best times to carbo load, to ingest a lot of carbs, because this is when your insulin is the highest, right? At this point, your insulin sensitivity is at its peak. Cortisol is already high to get you naturally out of bed and ready to go for the day. And so it's the worst time to load up on carbs for most people. And so what you should do here, and what I recommend for nutrition in the morning, is high protein, moderate fats, right? Something like eggs or yogurt and a little bit of berries, right? I think that's the perfect breakfast, or something like a smoothie where you can have, again, high protein. You can have a little bit of carbs in there if you want to, right? And then some fats in there for that slow digestion, keep you full for longer because of that protein, and avoid the energy crash later on by not consuming that many carbs in the morning. So that's window number 1. Window number 2, which could be maybe your pre-workout, right? This is when you want to load up a bit on carbs. You want to energize and you want to fuel that workout in about 30 to 60 minutes. That's when you should time these carbs correctly. Again, 30 to 60 minutes before that workout. This is when you want to start ramping up the carbohydrate ingestion to fuel those workouts. Window number 3, the post-workout carbohydrate meal. This is when you want to eat and ingest the most carbs, right? This is when it's most important to do so. After a workout, they call it the anabolic window, right? Your muscles are like sponges. They're ready to consume all of this nutrient-dense whole foods, right? In terms of carbohydrates and protein, right? You want to consume a high protein, high carb meal after a workout. And again, your highest quality sources, right? So something like chicken and a potato is great, or ground beef and white rice, right? Just something that is high quality, high protein, high carbohydrates. Your muscles are going to soak it up so much, and it's all going to be prioritizing muscle growth and glycogen replenishment. Window number 4, the afternoon phase. This is when you want to to continue consuming carbs, right? You don't want to completely cut them out. Of course, it depends on when you hit that workout and when you have your post-workout meal. But later on in the day, in the afternoon, you want to think, a banana, right? A little bit of fruit, a rice cake, for example, just a couple grams of carbohydrates to hold you over and maintain stable blood sugar without spiking your insulin. This one will be important just to hold you over again for those meetings, for those client check-ins, everything like that. And finally, window number 5, the evening. This is basically dinner. And here, the reason you want to prioritize carbs is because it helps with your sleep quality, falling asleep faster. Carbohydrates help in the production of, like I said a little bit earlier, serotonin and melatonin, right? The hormones that allow you to feel tired and fall asleep faster. So this is the one that surprises CEOs the most, but having dinner with some pasta, some rice, again, a potato, something like this with high quality and a good carbohydrate source for dinner is going to help better sleep, leading to higher productivity the next day going forward. So to bring it all together, here's the CEO blueprint in one sentence. Eat protein and fat in the morning, time your carbohydrates around your training, keep your afternoon stable, and use your evening meal as a means to get better quality and deeper sleep at night. Carbs are not the enemy. Unstrategic eating is, and now you have a system to follow. If this was useful, I want you to do 2 things. The first one, leave a like and comment on this video, as well as subscribe if you enjoy content like this. I'm putting out content every single week on performance enhancement, nutrition, training, and the lifestyle systems that keep high-performing people at their best for the long game. And second, if you're a CEO or entrepreneur who wants a nutrition structure built around your schedule, your stress load, everything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, head over to my Instagram and DM me the word nutrition and I'll reach out to you personally. I work with a small number of private clients, so if this is something that you're interested in, we can talk.